Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a bit of an update video on my Land Rover Discovery 3. As you know, I've had this car since May last year and I've had to sort a few things on it, so I'll go through the costs and things like that towards the end of the video. But a few things have changed as well, so I'll take you through some of the modifications, and unfortunately there are still some issues as well which I'll also talk about. So starting at the front of the car, you'll remember from my last video that I'd actually changed front grille and the fog light surrounds from some aftermarket chrome ones to more of a standard look. But what I've added are these plastic light guards. Now these I think were offered in a similar style when the car was launched, so kind of an optional extra, but these are just some sort of replicas of those, and they give it a bit more of a rugged look. Now these are only about 10 minutes to fit or so, and they just use existing holes in the car bodywork there to fit, and I think they look quite good and make it look a bit more purposeful. So moving around to the side of the car, you can see some more changes that I've made around here. So first of all is the wheels. They're now a matte black colour, and that's not because I particularly like black wheels or think they look kind of cool or anything, but the silver paint that was on here previously was all flaking off, and before winter I made the decision to repaint the wheels. Painting wheels silver I've always found is quite tricky, especially if you try and do like a clear coat and that sort of thing, and I didn't really have a lot of time to do it, and I've had quite a good experience with this matte black paint before, just on general application. It goes on quite smoothly, and with minimal prep it seems to be quite hard wearing as well, so that's why I've gone for the black on the wheels. But then I thought that kind of now clashes with the other silvery bits on the car, so I've kind of attempted to black out some of the bits and pieces. So moving along, we've got this side vent here, which is just it's either an eBay or just a random accessory shop copy of the original Land Rover one, but in matte black, just to match the wheels. And then these side steps have also been given a similar treatment with that paint, but you can see here how the paint has flaked off already. I really didn't bother prepping the area too much. I did mask it, but I didn't really sand it down or put any primer on. And you can see here on this leading edge, and where people have been getting in and out, that the paint is chipped off just because it's a high wear area, and where we live it's a lot of country lanes, and going into either stone chips or hedges and that sort of stuff, it really does just give it a bit of abuse on there. And then moving around to the back of the car, you can see it now has an access ladder to, well, nowhere at the moment except the roof. So this was just a cheap ladder, again, kind of an eBay or just a random accessory shop purchase. I can't remember now, it wasn't very expensive, but it does feel quite sturdy. The kids have climbed up and down it, and I've been on it as well. But conspicuously you'll see that there is no roof rack, but I'll go into why we haven't got one yet in a second. The other change around here is that I repainted the tow bar down here, just that same matte black paint, because it was just covering up some rust, and added a Land Rover branded tow bar cap there just to finish it off. So as I just mentioned, one of the things I talked about in my first Land Rover video was going to get a roof rack for this car, but I haven't got one actually for a few reasons. The first one is I wanted a expedition style roof rack, so one that goes all the way to the front, and they're really expensive. So the one I've seen was about £800, and then putting on a few accessories quickly got it up to about £1,000, and I can't really justify spending that much money on this car at the moment because I've got so many other projects and still doing stuff to our house, etc. But the intention very much is to do that at some point. The other thing as well is we've been using this car as our daily driver a lot, and using it as a daily driver inevitably means taking it to a multi-storey car park. Now this is quite a tall vehicle, and a lot of the multi-storey car parks around here are about 2 metres maximum height, and that coincides with the height of this vehicle pretty much. I think it's 1.95 m, and so I always put it on the access mode, which is lowering it down to its lowest setting to enable to get under these barriers with a bit of room to spare. And I think an expedition roof rack, especially if it was a basket one for example, would probably breach that 2 metre height, and just make it less practical as a car, because we are using it an awful lot, and you might even be able to see in the front that my wife drives it an awful lot as well, with her seating position ridiculously far forward. so I can't really justify it in that respect either. And the last reason is fuel economy. So at the moment around town, we're getting about 19 miles to the gallon, which isn't very high. And even if we take it on the motorway, the maximum I've seen it do is probably about 31 mpg. Now I don't know if that's normal for this type of car. It seems about normal, but I'm not sure whether putting a roof rack on is going to help those figures much. So until we actually are going to need a roof rack to put stuff on, either to go camping or on a bit of an adventure or whatever, then I think I'm just going to hold off for the time being, which means that the ladder, like I said, kind of goes nowhere at the minute, but for the moment it's the right thing to do. And then talking of accessories not fitted yet, I do actually have some light protectors to go on the rear here that match the front ones. Now these ones are a bit more involved to fit and require drilling holes in the body, so I've just simply not got round to doing that yet. I will fit them at some point, and I might do a bit of a how-to on it, but there's loads of documentation out there anyway, and I don't think I'll do a better job than other people at describing how to fit them, but I'll let you know when it happens. Right, so that kind of moves us on to costs. What have I spent on the car? I mean, accessories aside, which weren't really that expensive, the light guards and the ladder on the back and the tins of paint to spray the wheels, I don't think I've spent more than, say, 150, 200 pounds, which is small beer when you think of a car like this. But where I have spent the money is on maintenance and fixing stuff. So we'll start with the first bill that I got, and that's when I first got the vehicle, and we wanted to service it and do a cam belt change and that kind of thing. And what we found as well was the gearbox, if it's, you know, done 134,000 miles or something like that, and what it felt like was when you put your foot on the accelerator, it was kind of like a bit of rope with slack in it, and before the car kind of went, it revved, then it felt like the slack was being taken out, and then it would go. It was quite jerky and not very smooth. So what we did is have a bit of a gearbox service as well, by changing the fluid and that kind of stuff, and we also replaced the rear discs and pads. So all that work, the cam belt, gearbox service, normal major service, new pads and things, that ended up costing about £1,700 in all, which was the first bill. And then we also had a problem with the brake booster or brake servo, and I didn't know, but these cars suffer from a problem with the brake servo where oil can travel back through the vacuum line from the engine into the brake servo and completely wreck it, and that's what happened with this car. And the reason we found that there was a problem is because when you put the brake pedal down, it wouldn't return to the fully upright position very well. It did over a while, but what that meant was that the brake lights would remain on and the brakes would remain on partially, and the car wouldn't go up into second gear until the brake pedal would come all the way up to its top position. So we'd pull away, and then you'd be going along in first gear almost at the red line going, why isn't this going anywhere, and why isn't it changing up? And it was simply because the pedal had been stuck down partially, and you have to get your foot under it and lift it up, which is a bit dangerous. And we had that repaired. Yeah, so that repair was quite expensive, sort of labour wise, and we had to buy a new brake booster and vacuum pump and that kind of thing. So that totaled £950 or thereabouts in the end. So we spent a good sort of £2,700 on this car repairing it, which is about half the price of what it cost to buy it, which is quite alarming. But we really enjoy this car, and you have to think of it as kind of almost like a hobby car in some respects. You drive it because you like it, not because it's reliable or cheap to run. And my wife loves driving it, I love driving it, the kids love it too. If you could see in the back, you could see all of their junk in the back there. They love being in it and playing over the rear seats and that kind of stuff. And hopefully going to be a long-term car for us. So that's kind of the costs so far. So what are the remaining issues then? Well, one particular issue that we have is tracking on the wheels and things. I think in a previous life, it's had a bit of a rough time, and I think the wheels have been a bit knocked about, and we need to get new tyres anyway. So when we get the new tyres, we'll get all of the alignment done, and that should hopefully make it go down the road a bit nicer. The gearbox is a lot better after the gearbox service. It's still not 100%, which probably means that we need a torque converter or something like that at some point, but it's perfectly fine for now. There are a couple of electrical niggles, so one being the sunroof doesn't open, but I can live with that, and the other one is the parking sensors, which bleep at me all the time, which are a bit annoying, but we get by, but could be something we fix reasonably soon when we next go to the garage, for example. But the big problem that we've got at the moment is a water leak. Now, it seems to be coming from sort of the middle of the car, near the front, and coming into the footwells, and although that means the carpets are wet, what we're worried about is the electrical issues that might result from it. And when we've had heavy rain, the whole dashboard is lit up like a Christmas tree, with every warning going: transmission fault, suspension fault, limited performance, all the rest of all those sorts of messages on there. And it just seems to be caused by the water getting in. So that's one of the things I'm gonna have to sort pretty urgently, to stop it from getting us stranded or something, or even worse, something catastrophic sort of failing in the car, and need to spend a lot more money than just simply rectifying this leak. So I might make another video on trying to track down where this leak is coming from and bring it to you, but yeah, we'll have to see how we get on. Right, so just before we wrap up this video, I thought I'd do a quick update on some of the other cars. So MG is running fine, that's all good. Planning to do some trips in it this year, so just waiting for better weather really before doing anything like that. The XK8, as you know, I've got some ABS problems, and I've bought a more sophisticated fault code reader, which is helping me diagnose that. I've got some parts coming to hopefully fix that, and once I've fixed it, I'll let you know what the problem was, and we'll get it out for a bit of a run. And then lastly, quick update on the Lotus. As you would have seen in my last video, we got it home to the garage, and I've kind of cracked on a bit on this car. You can see the doors are off, and they're over there in the corner, protected by some towels and things, and then tailgate next. But yeah, I'm hoping to bring an update on the Lotus very soon, as it's my main focus for this year, and hopefully, yeah, get the chassis exposed in the next video, but we'll see how difficult it is. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. A bit of an update on the Discovery. Not quite as horrifying as you might think, running that car for, well, the best part of 9 months or so. But yeah, really great car, I love it, but just have to forgive its little faults for the overall experience. Anyway, thanks for watching, and see you again very soon. Bye bye.